By the time I finish these next 20 words, this morning's guest could be inside your computer and you'd never know it. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Holiday Inn West on the Waterway, next door to the newly opened Hard Rock Park. We're focused on the Computer Security Conference, which was held here the end of last week, and we're visiting with one of its featured speakers, Jon Kibler, the Chief Technical Officer with Advanced Systems Engineering Technology in Charleston, South Carolina. Good morning, Jon, and thanks for coming back. Of course, you were with us last year about the same time for a full hour. I think we split you up the beginning of the week and the end of the week. It was such a spellbinding interview there, the topic there of something that, you know, as we talked about moments ago before kicking off, a lot of folks are worried that, or not as concerned about things they don't know about, but this is something that folks really should know about.
This is just one place that ignorance will get you in trouble.
Absolutely. I think just last week our producer came over to the hotel, spent a little time with you, and you showed her how easy it is as a ethical hacker or otherwise, how easy it is to hack into somebody's computer.
Right.
Share with viewers a little bit about what you were trying to show her there and trying to explain to us.
Well, what I did is gave her what we call a Trojan movie, which a lot of people download from these peer-to-peer networks like the Zaz and eDonkey and what have you. And it wasn't a real movie what it claimed to be, but instead it was a way of somebody being able to break into the computer. So they clicked on the movie to play it, and as soon as they clicked on the movie, I was into their computer. I instantly shut off their antivirus, downloaded a keystroke logger so that everything that got typed on the keyboard I could record. You have logins, passwords, email addresses, bank information, everything that got typed on the computer, you know, I instantly had. So, you know, I owned your computer, and there was no sign whatsoever on the other side that anything even happened. You know, all they knew is, oh, gee, for some reason the movie didn't work.
And this happens on a regular basis?
It's very regular. It's estimated that anywhere from 10 to 30% of all the computers worldwide have been compromised like this at any point in time.
Is that right?
Yes.
And then ultimately, if folks get what they need, they just leave the computer?
No, they want the computer for its processing capability. They use it to send spam. They use it to do what we call denial of service attacks, where it's kind of like the old mafia insurance scam, high tech, where, you know, the mafia would go around and say, you know, if you don't pay me insurance payments every month, I'll burn your building down. Well, what they do these days is say that we'll attack your high-profile gambling site or porn site or whatever and knock you down for, you know, two or 3 days at a time, so you have no revenue unless you give us a cut of the revenue.
Right.
And they use all these compromised computers to do those types of attacks. And, you know, you have them doing attacks against governments and politicians, you know, anybody they don't like. And it's, you know, become an enterprise that not only organized crimes in, but they just arrested a group of kids in their late teens, early 20s out on the West Coast that had apparently been going at it for several months, and they had managed to control over 1 million computers.
No.
Yeah, and people advertise on some of these underground bulletin boards, and you can get about $3 a day per computer for, you know, compromised computers, renting them out to anybody that wants, you know, do whatever they want to with them.
Is that right?
So you can get you know, these young kids, you know, they can easily make tens of thousands of dollars a month doing nothing except going out and compromising computers and renting them out to other people.
Now, how would someone actually, how would it work there? How would they get access to, you know, is this only for Wi-Fi or WiMAX?
No, this is anything. Probably the biggest thing we're seeing these days are attacks against websites. The first one that really made large national news was called the Sammy Worm against MySpace, where it was really not malicious, but somebody just wanted to see how many friends they could add to their friends list, and just in a couple of hours, if I remember correctly, they added like 1 million people.
No.
And when I was doing my research for this conference, one of the things I was looking for was an old version of the QuickTime movie player, so I could show this particular way of compromising a computer. So I typed into Google, get QuickTime. And the very first thing that came up was a paid-for ad that said, get QuickTime 2000, and it was from www.quicktime.com.cm. CM, Cameroon, Africa.
Right.
A bogus website. And I, instead of clicking on the link, I actually saved the link and looked at the content. And the content, if you had clicked on the link, you would immediately gotten downloaded with spyware. And if you had gone to the website and actually did anything on the website, you would have had even worse stuff downloaded. And we didn't get far enough into the investigation, but it looked like, based upon the history of this particular group of people, if you'd actually gone out and downloaded the QuickTime that they were advertising, you would have not only gotten QuickTime, but you would have installed a whole bunch of viruses and other things on your computer.
That is terrible, John.
Yeah. And there's one of the big antivirus companies has done a study, and it was something like 10 to 15% of the paid placement ads on all the search engines are by these organized groups that are actually paying to advertise links that will contaminate your computer.
That is incredible. What can the big search engines do to protect themselves?
They depend upon people contacting them and reporting it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a mess. And it's, the average person, doesn't have, enough knowledge to even be suspicious of a lot of things.
Right.
Like I got a phishing email recently that purported to be from eBay and the Power Sellers Club, and I've never sold anything on eBay, so immediately that was a red flag to me. But I went through all the standard things where they tell you to mouse over all the links and look down at the bottom of your screen and see where it's actually going to, and if it claims to be from eBay, and if you click on the link and down at the bottom it says it's eBay, well, then you're probably going to eBay. Well, this one was sophisticated enough that they use what they call a redirector, that once you go to a site, it immediately takes you to another site. So you clicked on the eBay link, that it took you to eBay France, which then took you to a website that I'm not particularly familiar with called eBay Objects. It's somehow associated with eBay, which then took you to AOL, which then took you to somebody's compromised computer on a DSL connection somewhere on the West Coast. And
wow.
That's where you actually got this bogus website that tried to get your eBay credentials.
That is incredible, John.
Yeah, and I mean, it took me a couple hours studying it just to figure out what they were doing.
Well, now, of course, for you, you've got clients, and I know you never go into who your clients are, but you go in to help clients out to remove viruses or spyware, malware from their computers.
Yes, that's among the things I do, and I'll tell you what, a lot of the, the FBI statistics say that about 80% of the computers they seize have malware on them that is not identified by any antivirus product that's on the market. And I'm seeing an increasing number of incidents where I'll get a customer call me up and say, we suddenly got 20, 30 of this virus that's on all these computers, and they appeared overnight. How in the world did it get here? Come take a look. And when I get in and take a look at the computers, I'll say, oh, that's been there 3 to 6 months. It's just now that the antivirus companies have actually found it. I know I've seen some statistics from one of the antivirus companies that only makes antivirus products for the commercial marketplace. They don't supply it to the consumer.
Right.
And they said that they are finding 6,000 newly infected web pages a day. That means one new page every 15 seconds. And that's just the ones that they're finding. They are finding about a dozen new viruses, and I don't mean just a modification of an existing virus, but about a dozen new viruses every hour, one every 5 minutes. and they are just the organized crime groups are just putting out this stuff so fast that the companies just can't keep up with it.
I can't even fathom this. I'm trying to think. I think I may have asked you what should viewers be doing to protect themselves, but you're highlighting so much that just seems overbearing to overcome.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult. Avoid, a lot of the real popular places. I mean, it's almost ridiculous to say it, but avoid places like MySpace and Facebook and the big popular social networking sites where people can post content, because that's where we're seeing the majority of the problem.
Right.
I know that's like telling kids that it's bad to smoke.
Right,
they're
sure.
going to do it anyway, but avoid these file sharing because that is a major source of this junk. And you have to run antivirus, but that's really not enough anymore.
Run antivirus, and for a viewer who doesn't go online a lot or doesn't know, what are some examples of? I think you had highlighted when you were with us a year ago, John, that this should be running continuously.
Running continuously
on your computer,
right,
as opposed to updating it every week at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to update rapidly. But you need not only antivirus, but you really need the anti-spyware, the host-based firewalls. The firewall that comes with Windows just isn't strong enough. And you also need something that does web content filtering, something like WebWasher or Surf Control, products that until recently have not been available to the end consumer, that actually examine the content before it reaches your web browser as it comes in over the network and attempts to block the bad stuff.
And now, would folks be able to, how do they buy that? Do they buy it online, download it online? Does it then potentially become compromised when WebWasher or Surf Control are being downloaded?
Well, you can buy them in most of the big box retail outlets, or you can buy them online. The question is what's on your box to start with?
Right, sure.
And for most home users, if you're going to decide to lock down your computer, it's best to back up your data, back up only your data, wipe the system out, and just reinstall your Windows from your installation media, and don't go online until you have it locked down. The first place you go is the Windows Update. Get your Windows updates and install them before you do anything else on your computer. Then put antivirus on, then put your anti-spyware and everything else on. And at that point, you can put your data back on, scan your computer, and go from there. Mm-hmm. But you need to be vigilant. When I know what I'm doing and I know where what to avoid, and I can get hit with websites trying to download malware onto my computer a half dozen times in a week. That just shows you the magnitude of the problem.
John, I'm trying to, as we go through that, and what if a viewer on a regular basis, for instance, uses the internet for their direct withdrawals to pay their bills, is that something you'd recommend? Do they utilize the internet for that, or are banking or bank websites safe or unsafe?
Right now, that's kind of a controversial question. I don't know that there is a clear answer as to who has the liability. I do know that there is litigation against banks where people have had spyware on their computer that has compromised their account information, and they've had large sums of money transferred out of the country, and that they've ended up holding the bag, that the banks have said that they have no liability there. Right. There's other times that the banks will put money back. It is not a instance where there's a lot of case law that says and regulatory. Personally, I don't do it. And if you go to any of the big security conferences and you ask in the audience who does online banking, the only people who raise their hands are the ones that it's their first security conference.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So had that been a question, and that may have been a question last week at the conference here at the Holiday Inn West, that may have come up, and I suspect, as you say, only the first-time attendees were the folks raising their hands.
Yes.
That is terrible. Of course, last year you talked a lot about organized crime and that they are really the purveyors to a great degree of much of this, but you've also just talked about some 10, 15, and teenagers that are really getting into it.
Oh, they're getting into it, for kind of the, kicks, the underground, I'm doing something that's not legal, because they can make money on it, but at the same time, organized crime is really who's behind it. You see entire software development operations developing this malware and selling it online.
Right.
For the big thing that we see is what we call botnets, where you have these automated pieces of software that go around, compromise computers, phone home, and then go out and try to compromise more computers. And it's not uncommon to see a botnet of 100,000, 200,000 computers all calling home to the same place. And the two biggest bots out there, Fatbot and Argobot, have both been written by the Russian mob.
Is that right?
Yeah, or their associates. You see websites in Russia that, for $1,500 you can go out and buy either one of these pieces of software.
Well, now, John, if someone can get access to my computer and then monitor my keystrokes to get passwords, why would anyone doing any online transactions at all?
Credit card purchases from reputable websites, I believe, is the only thing, in my personal opinion, that it's safe to do online.
So that's something that even you do?
I will admit to going out. Right, I will admit to going out and buying books at Amazon, or buying computer equipment from some of the major commercial retailers.
Right.
But I will do that on credit cards. Never use debit cards.
Never debit cards. Only credit cards.
Only credit cards.
Okay.
Because debit cards, it's between you and the vendor. The bank has no liability on the debit cards.
Right.
So.
So using credit cards from the big Visa, MasterCard, the big suppliers there, and doing them with very large, secure sites. And
from computers that I know that are clean. Right. And that's the big gotcha.
Okay.
One of the things that I wish the banks would push more is one-time use credit card numbers. And I've been trying to get my bank to start issuing those, and they haven't as of yet, but I know in the West Coast, I've got several colleagues out there that's the only way they do online purchases, with credit card numbers that are good for one use and one use only.
Okay.
So if somebody even captures it, they can't make additional purchases.
Last year you highlighted a website, I believe it was SANS, SANS.org.
Yes.
Which had a white paper, some other great information about if I've had a computer for more than a year, it's been set up, but the steps to go through, or was that white paper principally for folks buying a new computer?
Well, for buying a new computer, because once you have a computer and it's been out on the internet, I wouldn't trust it as far as I could kick it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, I have yet to see a home user's computer that wasn't as infested as mosquitoes in a swamp.
That is terrible, John. I cringe thinking about. You mean it's even so? It's not going to be protected even if I'm just going to high-profile sites, Amazon, for instance, using my credit card.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that somebody hasn't figured out some way getting in at Amazon. No one has an absolute guarantee that any site is secure. I've done some work for a couple of the big e-tailers that have actually had their websites hacked. You don't see about it in the news, but it happens.
Cully Carson was with us yesterday and highlighted that there is, South Carolina was the 42nd state, I believe, just recently, the first of the month, that has put a notification, a law in play that the governor had just signed off on, I think, April 2nd. And so a lot of push there, but there's still some states clearly that don't have the notification requirements, and some big companies that, as you say, may not have to do that.
Yes. And I mean, it's just, the paper that you're referring to was called Windows XP, Surviving the First Day. And if you go out to SANS.org and click on Reading Room and search for the paper, it's Windows XP, Surviving the First Day. Tells you that, okay, you bring a computer home from the store, or you've just wiped out your Windows install and you want to reinstall, how do I install it, and how do I get the patches and do so safely without the computer getting compromised. That is a very, very good paper to go get. And, it's a mess. And we're almost fighting a losing battle. And the biggest problem is that we're being outspent and outgunned. Organized crime is spending more money on R&D, according to a lot of reports, than the entire rest of the world is spending on security defense.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
John, I think I've seen, whether I'm on an office computer or possibly at a home computer, and have seen the computer virtually shuts down and says we've hit a fatal error. Is that an example of something that's occurring? Either it's hitting your, or is that just a computer-related issue?
Well, it can be a computer-related issue, and prior to Windows XP, I would tend to more blame it on the computer than anything, but anymore, if you have a computer crash like that, it is most likely due to the spyware and the other stuff that's on your computer. I know a lot of people complain that the more they use the computer, the slower it gets. Well, that is a number one symptom that they have all sorts of spyware and other junk on their computer, because all this stuff is sitting there, monitoring everything they're doing, sucking up all the resources, and you have no time left for what the user wants to do, because it's spending all of its time spying on everything the user's doing.
That is incredible, John. I can't even fathom. You must have friends and others who just no longer go online, who no longer take advantage of their computer, even computer experts.
There's a few people that are getting close to that, but I know there's anecdotal evidence of people just saying that I'm absolutely fed up with having to take my computer into the shop every 6 months and getting told that the reason it's not working right, it's all my fault.
Right, yeah. We just got a couple of minutes. Are there some other things that worry you, John? Some things that you're particularly vigilant about on behalf of your clients or in your home life that really, I know last year you talked about a number of things. It relates to Wi-Fi, WiMAX,
yeah,
Bluetooth.
Anything wireless is just incredibly insecure. And the people walking around with Bluetooth-enabled cell phones, most of them don't have any idea what they're doing in terms of risk. It's trivial with the majority of the Bluetooth-enabled cell phones for somebody to go out and steal your phone book, all your messages and email, everything you got stored on your cell phone can be grabbed and you not have a clue. They can eavesdrop on your conversations and you not even be aware there's a problem.
Virtually, that's easy to get equipment so that here in the lobby, if someone was sitting here at last week's computer security conference, for instance, someone was sitting here with the Bluetooth and checking emails, that someone could be sitting right next to them looking at their emails.
Exactly. And Bluetooth, I was at a conference about a year ago up in the D.C. area where they had put some little Bluetooth-enabled notebooks around the conference to spy on people, and they were able to show everybody that had a Bluetooth-enabled cell phone where they walked, when they got phone calls, when they got text messages, and everything. And they even were able to point out the people that didn't have their cell phones on silence and got calls in the middle of presentations.
No, you are kidding, John.
Yeah, it's very, very simple to do. You can be spied on so easily with Bluetooth and wireless. The Wi-Fi. If you're not going to spend $10,000 or more to lock down a wireless network, you have no business using it, particularly in a business environment.
You say if someone's not going to spend at least $10,000 or more to lock it down, you shouldn't be using a network?
You shouldn't be using wireless networks. Wireless networks, because you have a new wireless security standard called Enterprise WPA2, which is a business class. It's very complicated to set up and administer, and that is the only one that has any chance of security.
Right.
That if you're using the standard, wireless access point that you get, off the shelf from any of the big box retailers, you bring it in, sit down. Anybody in your neighborhood can sit there and use your internet connection, and they can sit there and connect to your computer and steal stuff off your computer. And somebody can be sitting out in the parking lot of your apartment complex and do it. And the WEP can be broken, encryption, which the instructions tell you to set up. It can be broken in under 3 minutes. And if you don't really know what you're doing and you try to set up the WPA encryption, you can break it in probably less time than that.
John, that is incredible. I think we're running out of time.
Sure.
As we highlight that aspect of clearly what folks can do, normal people can do to protect themselves, I think you've highlighted there's a lot that can be done, but SANS.org is a very important place to go. Any other websites that you'd recommend to folks to try to protect themselves?
The various vendors, my personal preference for the antivirus products for a home user would be Greaseoff, more than the wider used McAfee and Symantec, only because they are one of the fastest at putting out the new signatures. And when you're getting a dozen pieces of new malware an hour being detected, that getting new updates once a day or once every other day or once a week just doesn't cut it.
Just isn't enough. John, thanks so much for being with us this morning. I'm sorry we've run out of time. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Jon Kibler of Assets, one of the featured speakers of last week's conference, coming up next. If you're not concerned about your time on the internet or on the computer any day after sitting here the last 30 minutes, then you've got a problem. If you want to know more or want to go back over some of the points John was highlighting, go to carolinapeople.com this Friday afternoon. Go online. You can pause his interview throughout and highlight some of those critical aspects that he's bringing to the forefront every day. Jon Kibler, thanks so much for being with us.